Mounting tension in the Middle East as Israel's military claims Gaza militants test-fired rockets into the Mediterranean. This just days after Palestinians killed 4 rabbis and a policeman at a Jerusalem synagogue. Let's bring in Jonathan Schanzer, Vice President of Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and author of the recently published book, State of Failure, Yasser Arafat, Mahmoud Abbas, and the Unmaking of the Palestinian State. Why this sudden flare-up in terrorism and violence there in Jerusalem?
Well, this is something that I think the Israelis are still struggling with. I'm not sure that it is actually sudden. This has been taking place since really June, since the region was on tilt before that 50-day war, which of course exacerbated tensions on the ground in Jerusalem. But the real troubling thing for the Israelis is not so much the rocket testing in Gaza, but that this looks like it's an organic spate of violence that's stemming from a population that is under Israeli control.
Yeah, rockets that they are not supposed to have. I mean, obviously they're flexing their muscles. They're showing what they have been able to accomplish despite the blockades.
Well, that's right, and they want to let the Israelis know that they have this ability to create rockets domestically, that they don't need to smuggle them in through the Sinai Peninsula, through those tunnels any longer, that they have the ability to do it themselves. But I think that for the time being, Hamas is likely to continue to lick its wounds after really suffering a pretty tough beating over the summer. Yeah,
the Iron Dome system certainly took care of most of those threatening rockets the last time around. Jonathan, you are also the author of a new research paper about Turkey's role in the rise of ISIS, highlighting, among other things, that country's very loose border policies that have allowed foreign fighters to sneak into Syria to join the extremist groups. You advocate closing that. How do we encourage the Turks to do such a thing?
Well, that's the hard part here. I mean, I think the easy part is identifying the fact that the border has served as this jurisdiction for terror finance, for weapons smuggling, for the illicit sale of oil. ISIS is actually selling oil to middlemen in Turkey. These are all things that are helping to keep ISIS afloat. If we were able to shut it down, we could do significant damage to the terror organization. And so the question is, how do we get the Turks on board? Primarily, they're concerned with bringing down Bashar al-Assad, which should be a priority of ours here in the United States, but we have a disagreement on that. Still, in the meantime, we have an opportunity to work with them to perhaps stand up a new integrated border defense system, something that could be contributed to from NATO. These are things that we need to start to press the Turks on very openly if we're going to get anything done.
But ever since, Turkey used to have a very secular government. Ever since Erdogan took over, it has been more and more Islamist. Are there fears that if the U.S. leans too hard on Erdogan, it could go that direction and be a completely Islamist state?
Well, in some ways, we're already there. Turkey is harboring Hamas. They're working with Jabhat al-Nusra. They're working with ISIS. They've been helping Iran evade sanctions. I mean, this is not a country that we can trust any longer. It raises real questions about whether it belongs in the NATO alliance. But I think refusing to address this publicly means that the Turks will think that they have a green light to continue this kind of activity, and that's what we need to stop.
Jonathan Schanzer from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Jonathan, thank you.
My pleasure.